It's March 10th, 2019. You're listening to Fancy Ramen. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
And this is a podcast mostly about video games, but amongst many other things we may talk about include things like TV shows, anime, food, and gaming chairs. Not actually really ever that often about the gaming chairs.
But
can it do this? And Cookies can.
Yeah, Neil just did a flip in his chair, and then Cookie actually reciprocated with a double flip on his
A 360 McTwist.
Yeah. My chair leans back, so I did that. And that was pretty cool, too.
So what have you guys been up to this week?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, crap. Yeah, that's a thing I did this week.
Well, everybody poops.
I went to the Moth.
Like the Moth radio hour?
Yeah.
Or is really?
They had their very first one in Omaha, Nebraska on Thursday.
What was the story about? For those who are unaware or uninitiated, the Moth Radio Hour is a program that is
on NPR.
On
National
NPR
Public Radio.
It's normally, I think it's around midday.
It's Tuesdays at noon.
Okay, yeah, it's Tuesdays at noon. Cookie knows what's up.
Way
with
to
the Moth.
flex.
And someone, I know I shouldn't have been giving this description when we have a downright audio radio pro here, but somebody or a variety of people get up on stage for the Moth Radio Hour and they tell a story, and the narratives can pretty much encompass almost any element of the human experience.
Yep, as long as it's true and they don't get notes. They're not allowed to use notes or anything while they tell the story. So we ended up listening to 5 stories. The theme of the night was, oh God, something magical, a little bit of magic.
Magical girl?
No, it was
The Magic Kingdom. Harry Potter, shitting your pants, and Dobby's giant
occasional magic.
Ears. Oh, okay.
Yes, occasional magic was the theme of the night. And yeah, we got to listen to some funny stories, some sad and serious stories. It was a good time. Hopefully they air some of those at points on NPR.
I wonder if anyone got chastised for having a story that was a bit too magical.
Nah.
Frequently magical.
One guy's very sad story was also quite hilarious because he was a wilderness guide in Alaska, and he had found out his wife was cheating on him. Well, had cheated on him, right before they got married 2 years ago, and they lived in a small town, so everyone knew, except for him.
Oof.
And he was sad. And then he ended up getting lost in Alaska, and then got charged by a grizzly bear, and then charged the grizzly bear back and made a couple of mistakes on the way, but the grizzly bear freaked out and ran away, so he was fine. He's got to tell it. It was funnier. It was funnier when he told it.
I have heard that bears will try and avoid needless injuries. So things like cats, for instance, can actually scare bears off.
Oh yeah. Have you recently heard the story about the defense of a mountain runner versus a mountain lion? It's been going around my community since we deal with that sort of thing from time to time.
You don't mean like the legal defense. You mean like actually the man's encounter with a mountain lion and what he did to protect himself?
I mean the title of this New York Times article: a mountain lion attacked a runner. He choked it to death and escaped.
How? Okay. Once you choke something to death, unless it's illegal, do you really need to escape?
So did he just choke it to death and flee the scene?
I was going to say he fled the scene of the crime is what it sounds like.
Is he afraid that the corpse is going to attack him?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe the person who wrote the article really didn't think about exactly the the context in which leaving a like dead aggressor behind kind of saves you from having to deal with
The escaping
any sort
part.
of aggression at that point.
They probably
Yeah.
wrote the headline just thinking this sounds the most epic. This will get
Chokes
the most
mountain lion
clicks.
to death and continues his 5K run.
Chokes mountain lion to death, then goes home to tell reporters.
Chokes mountain lion to death and then teabags repeatedly before checking to make sure there were no observers and slinking off the trail.
Chokes mountain lion to death and then screams, "Get good, scrub." Man.
Chokes mountain
Men in
lion to
there.
death after repeatedly hitting the square button. Metal Gear Solid reference.
Oh yeah, no, I got it.
Oh, and I guess I also, speaking of choking mountain lions to death, beat a video game in the year 2019.
Whoa, what's going on?
Exactly. It's a new
The
day.
natural order of things has been upended. Both a mountain lion lost in a fight with a man and Cookie has successfully completed a video game.
And got a secret ending for said video game, too.
Holy shit. Wow. Did you also flee the scene of the crime after you did this?
Higgs, yeah.
What game is this?
Hey,
Kingdom
wait.
Hearts.
Before we
Oh.
talk about it, do you want to say anything, Scott, in regards to your week?
I mean, I guess that's a good point. I haven't said anything about mine and you haven't gotten your chance, Neil. So we'll do the usual. I give mine and then skip over you to
Pretty much.
Cookie's content. The only thing I did noteworthy that was not video game related was watch the third and I assume final installment. I hope this isn't a spoiler to anyone of DreamWorks' How to Train Your Dragon Hidden World, or How to Train Your Dragon 3.
Oh, yeah. Forgot that was out. I was too busy watching Captain Marvel.
You know, I also haven't, like, there's actually been a couple of films that I have not been good about keeping on my radar. The Lego movie, the second one, is also out, and I
Damn.
love the first one, so I need to pick that up before it leaves theaters. I won't give too much in-depth discussion about the movie, besides the fact that it was pretty much up to the same quality that the other two were, which, in my opinion, are really solid films I enjoyed quite a bit. Man, it had a good score. The soundtrack for this movie was just phenomenal. The one thing I noticed in the theater was that this soundtrack really starts off working with mostly like orchestral and instrumental elements, but as the story and sort of the stakes progress, and therefore the emotional highs and lows are magnified by the context of the story, the like choral elements that get brought in by the I guess composer John Powell just like really knocked this movie out of the park. One of the best films I've seen for just a wonderful audio experience in a bit of time. And then they also apparently had what was it? They had the, I think, frontman for the band Sigur Rós have a couple tracks that he worked on, and he also has a very, very good voice. And so I think the credits for him, he goes by Jonesy in this, but the soundtrack alone to this movie was just damn good. And the story itself was enjoyable. I liked it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question, but I really don't remember now. I'm happy for you.
As someone that like kind of fell off the face of pop culture maybe like 10 years ago and then got back on 3 or 4 years ago, I never realized that How to Train Your Dragon was such a popular show or movie series.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about it that has me adore it so much. It's the whole like boy and his dog style of like narrative for essentially each film. That's the like primary relationship that people appreciate out of How to Train Your Dragon. But it's just so damn charming. Maybe it's because the dragons exhibit very familiar, like, domestic behaviors that we get from our cats and dogs that we either keep as pets or that friends and family members have as pets.
When I first heard the title, I kind of assumed it was a manga because How to Train Your Dragon is definitely an anime title now.
Yeah, it is.
How to Pick Up Girls in Dungeons. No, is it wrong to pick up girls from dungeons?
Is it still wrong to pick up girls in dungeons?
Is that the sequel? That should be the sequel.
Answer the question? Do we know if it's wrong, or are we still just working in a moral gray here?
Maybe it's kind of like How I Met Your Mother, and the entire series determines whether or not it's morally just or morally correct to pick up girls in dungeons. Or if it still is, as if it were at one point in time. But speaking of domestic animals and pets, that sort of thing, if it's cool to switch over to me real quickly.
It is. I'm ready for you to talk about Domestic Girlfriend.
Hopefully you didn't make a...
No, I didn't. Like I said, I already skipped way far ahead in that just to see if there was an end in sight after I saw the hundreds and hundreds of chapters. Digressing even further, I recently discovered that JoJo has an insane amount of chapters, and I didn't realize it because a lot of places organize the chapters by parts. But they basically have almost as many chapters as One Piece. So, holy crap. When you realize that the one thing you hate for no reason, which is, insanely long anime and manga series, also happens to describe one of your favorite things, it's kind of demoralizing. But speaking of domestic, or like pets, if you will, a boy and his pet, we have a new Alamo Draft House in town now. So like in the midtown portion of Omaha, and
there are two now.
Yeah,
you're telling me. Holy cow!
And so the theme, because you know how all Omaha draft houses have themes.
All two of them.
Well, I mean, apparently every all Alamo draft houses,
Okay.
All Alamo draft houses have movie themes attached to them. Like the one in La Vista, which is south of Omaha a little bit, but still in the metro area, is Star Wars themed, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
And
yes,
I really
is.
couldn't tell.
It is.
It just has the throne, the Emperor's throne, in that one little
and the
cubby
Death Star
area
thing.
Yeah. The one in Midtown is actually the Iron Giant themed.
I really couldn't tell that either, actually.
Huh.
Did you go there?
Yeah, that's where we went to go see Captain Marvel yesterday.
What's the most indicative thing about the Iron Giant besides titular character Iron Giant?
I don't know. Instead of maybe sitting in the throne, you sit in the Iron Giant's hand.
Oh,
is there a giant metal mecha hand sticking out any place, Cookie?
No. I want to say, so you buy your tickets at the downstairs area, which looks kind of normal. Then there's like a gift shop area, but that really didn't scream anything. It's gray, I guess. Then when you go up on the second floor, before you get to the third floor, which is the movie theater where the old ticket booth used to be, that entire wall is just covered in license plates. Then the big open area is filled with a pinball machine and it looked like a Galaga machine, but it had Street Fighter 2 Turbo running on it. And then you get up to the third floor, which is the actual cinema, and it was also just painted gray. So
okay, I do remember reading in a Reddit thread that they weren't done with decorations quite yet, because I think we're still technically in their soft opening. I
mean, Cookie didn't explain that every single employee was named Hogarth, and that was odd.
But I thought that was kind of interesting that like the Iron Giant's probably one of my favorite movies.
Vin Diesel movies.
Is he the Iron Giant?
He is the Iron Giant.
That's kind of rad.
He does such great voice acting.
Wait, so he does like what does the Iron Giant even say? I thought he just made like
friend.
You stay. I go.
Oh,
Superman. And then he's destroyed by an atomic warhead, and I cry my eyes out.
but the screw piece moves.
He
just
was
saying.
also
He was
and
Groot.
he's also Groot. Yeah.
He was also in The Babysitter, or whatever that movie was.
Does he also die in The Babysitter only to be resurrected later?
No, I don't
Because that
think
seems
so.
to be the trend we
I'm
have
pretty sure
going here.
he's a human man. He is, he probably has the most death and resurrections over even Sean Bean. Mostly because Sean Bean doesn't get resurrected.
Yeah, after he gets stabbed in Game of Thrones, wait, stabbed? No, he gets
He
decapitated.
gets decapitated.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad because that's actually, no, what? Game of
No,
Thrones
that's
has
a
been out for
good
years
way to
at this
go.
point.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I mean,
yes, the spoiler to season 1 that happened 8 years ago.
Yep.
Hopefully you just don't recognize Sean Bean, and you can watch it without realizing who gets decapitated.
I think you only get to
Spoiler
watch
alert.
2 movies with him before you know he's going to die in the next one you see.
Spoiler alert, everyone gets decapitated in Game of Thrones. Just everyone.
Man, there's some spicy stuff going on with the Game of Thrones author in the series at this point now.
Wait,
Yeah, another-
is he writing another book or directing another movie?
No, I mean, like, the ongoing thing that he's been involved in at this point, which I honestly blame, like, not in a bad way, it's just I attribute this is why it takes him so long to write, is he's the editor of the series Wildcards, which is basically his superhero universe. But the whole process is that, like, a bunch of other authors write for the Wildcard series, and everything that gets written has to go through him and maybe someone else too. But, like, when you are essentially heading up your own superhero franchise or superhero universe, like, you probably don't have nearly as much time to write a novel than if you didn't do that, So, not that I think it's, like, wrong for him to do that either. Like, if the author doesn't think his book is ready yet, then take your sweet time. But at this point, he said that there are apparently going to be, like, some significant differences between how the books end and how the TV show ends, which for people that have seen or consumed both already know that because there are completely different major players or characters in each alive at this point.
So when you say wild card, what?
Wildcard, let me pull up a Wikipedia entry for it because that would be much easier.
Because all I can find in Wikipedia under Wildcard in comics is the character Wildcard, published by Marvel Comics in 1987.
Actually, you know what? I'm wrong. It's Wildcards. But it started in 1987, edited by George R.R. Martin and Melinda M. Snodgrass.
What a wonderful last name.
A series of science fiction, superhero, shared universe anthologies, mosaic novels, and solo novels written by a collection of more than 40 authors referred to as Wildcards Trust, and edited by George R.R. Martin and co-edited by Melinda M. Snodgrass. Set largely during an alternate history of post-World War II United States, the series follows humans who contracted the wildcard virus, also in Persona. That rewrites DNA and mutates survivors. Those who acquire crippling and/or repulsive physical conditions are known as jokers, while those who acquire superhuman abilities are known as aces. And those few who acquire minor, insignificant powers are not worthy of being called aces are known as deuces. So it's apparently originated from a long-running campaign of the superhero role-playing game Game Mastered by Martin and involving many of the Game Mastered GM by Martin and involved many of the original authors. The framework of the series was developed by Martin and Snodgrass, including the origin of the character's superhuman abilities and the card-based terminology.
Cool.
And
This
that
is
was
something I've
Wildcards.
never heard of or seen in my local comic book store.
It's not comic books, but it's just novels. to my understanding. They use a term in that referring to mosaic novels. I don't know what that necessarily means, and I'm not too interested in looking it up at this very moment.
Okay, either way.
Got much else to tell us about your week, Scott?
No, not exactly. We're in playoff season for hockey, and we won our first playoff match, and so I've got a second one later today, and I'll let you guys know if I become a champion in the next couple weeks.
No, you're going for legend.
If I never say a word about it again, then yeah, I also probably became a champion. There's no chance that we'll lose. So
you know, champions only stay champions if they retire after becoming champion.
I know. That's why after I beat my dad at chess for the first time, I refused to ever pick up the game again.
Good job.
You got to know when to hold them. Got to know when to fold them.
I'll reserve what I have to say for the games, I guess, the game side, if we have time for it, because it could be gaming related. So, Cookie, you beat Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yes, I did.
The game that we never thought would exist, potentially.
And honestly, not slight spoiler, but slight spoiler for those who are trying to play Kingdom Hearts 3 and haven't been through it yet. Close, like at the beginning of the final act, I thought the game wasn't going to exist again because they hit you with such bullshit. And then they hit you with Deus Ex Machina. And then a second Deus Ex Machina comes in to help right themselves out of a corner. And then there's a third Deus Ex Machina that comes and helps right themselves out of a corner.
So do we want to open up the floodgates to spoilers?
Yeah, I really do think we should talk about these three instances of Deus Ex Mickey Mouse.
Oh no, Mickey's useless. Mickey's completely useless.
I thought he was like the second main character. Like, isn't he the Deus Ex Machina
God
himself?
In a Disney verse? Yeah.
Oh no, the actual gods in the Disney verse were the Deus Ex Machina. So,
Walt Disney. I wonder if Walt Disney is like rolling over in his graves. In his grave. His multiple graves. No, I guess he's frozen.
Each Walt Disney Horcrux has been scattered across the globe to preserve his empire.
Didn't he like freeze his brain or something?
There's some rumor about him being cryogenically frozen. Who knows if it's true or not? But if you are a block of ice, it would be harder to roll. So. Oh
fuck! If he was cryogenically frozen and then he is revived or resurrected within Kingdom Hearts. That would be like the most, I mean, it doesn't matter if he really was or not, but just going off of the rumor, that would be the most meta fucking thing ever.
I feel like you can only do something that sacrilegious to a company after he's been dead for like maybe another 100 years.
You say sacrilegious, but like, you know, he would be immortalized at this point in one way or another. So he like Sora and his party, like Mickey, Donald and Daffy and Goofy, they're going down the yellow brick road, and then they get to the jade, the green glass palace, or whatever. Emerald City, thank you. And they go and they talk to the guy behind the curtain, and it turns out to be the newly thawed out Walt Disney.
That'd be interesting.
And then he'd be like, I didn't like Squaresoft games all that much, so that's why there's no Final Fantasy here.
Nice. Oh, so I finally found the name I was looking for, because there are a lot of people. They wrapped up the story pretty nicely, weirdly enough. But in these things, so if you've ever seen any kind of like Kingdom Hearts intro video, there are always these like two little kids playing chess against each other. So we find out that those two little kids are Ericus and Xehanort when they were younger. And basically they're playing chess, a game of chess between white pieces and dark pieces, or light and darkness. And towards the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, like a thing happens. They go to those two kids playing chess. Like, so basically a huge twister of Heartless come up. They take Donald, Goofy. No, actually, no. Donald sacrifices himself by using way too
That was not Donald.
It wasn't even close.
That was some abomination from a much darker, like.
That's when the magic is like
source.
leaving his body and he's
but anyway.
deteriorating into flesh and bones.
So
Oh my gosh.
So Mickey gets knocked out. Donald sacrifices himself. Kyrie gets kidnapped. Fucking the other Keyblade wielders end up getting pub stomped by this thing of Heartless.
When you say the other Keyblade wielders, you mean the
Terra,
names?
Vin.
Okay, no, it's not the thing that happens.
No, it is not the thing that happens. Terra, Vin, the other like Keyblade wielders that you've been and Aqua, the ones that you've been looking for, / Axel, who is Ray. Anyway. And Sora's on the ground giving up hope, and Riku's like, "Oh, you're not going to give up, right?" It's like, "If you are, it's okay. I got this." And then Riku gets fucking blown away, and then Sora gets captured by the darkness, and then it cuts to the two kids playing chess, and the kid using all the black pieces are like, "Haha, I win." And the kid using the white pieces was like, "You think that until I do this." And then he picks up his chess piece because he just got checkmated. So he picks up his king and returns his king back to like the normal space. And then seven other like pieces come up for him. And he's like, "Haha, you didn't see that coming." And he's like, "Dude, I just beat you. I had checkmate. And you just did this completely illegal move." He's like, "Yeah, because there's more to light than it seems. It's the light of the past." And it's like, okay. And then it cuts to Sora running back into the field right before the giant twister goes and like kills everybody. Mm-hmm. So that was like the first Deus Ex Machina moment. It was just like, oh yeah, light lost. Okay, light's back now because we can do this. And then slight things change. And then the giant twister starts up again, but this time Sora hasn't given up hope. And as a matter of fact, a new character comes in and he starts being like, "Haha, we've got hope now because I am a Keyblade wielder from the past. And here are all these other Keyblades because we're in the Keyblade graveyard." And then you get to use the names of old Keyblade wielders to help defeat the darkness. That was Deus Ex Machina number 2. Then after you beat the darkness, get all your friends back, you end up being surrounded again by a bunch of things, and you're like, okay, there's no way we're going to get out of this alive, right? And then fucking Merlin shows up. That's Deus Ex Machina number 3. And he's like, "Don't worry, guys. I'll hold them off. You go about your business."
Like
It's
Sword
all
in the
good.
Stone Merlin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he teaches magic. So he shows up, helps them like get away. Donald and Goofy stay behind, and then you end up getting split up with all your friends, and some other things happen. Kyrie ends up dying, but it's okay. Sora ends up dying again, but it's okay because a fourth Deus Ex Machina happens, and then you can fight the big bad boss, and that fight takes like forever because there's like 17 different portions of it. But it was all worth it in the end. It's the end of Sora's journey. Kind of, not really.
Was the whole Keyblade name thing like effective in making you feel hyped, I guess, for lack of a better phrase here?
No. It wasn't really like, it was like so when it happened, I was thinking, oh, that's cool. I wonder where these names are like actually coming from. Like, because some of these seem like not real people, but like user generated names, like gamer tags and stuff.
Right.
So I wonder if it's like the players who were playing the mobile game of Kingdom Hearts and you're using their names, and something happened at the end of that where they were able to, after the Great Keyblade War happens in the mobile game, you're able to like etch your name into your Keyblade and call it a day. And I was like, okay, that was cool. And then something crazy happened after that, and I completely forgot about that. And then when you mentioned what's the Nier Automata moment, I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It took me a second of thinking to find it. So it was just a moment.
I don't know. I was just curious because, like, the reason why I brought up the whole comparison to begin with was because on some other message boards and on a separate podcast, they had made the direct comparison, basically saying that the Nier Automata thing happens in Kingdom Hearts 3, and so like Nier Automata has like several different things,
big elements to it, that define it as a game.
So it was extremely hard for me to figure it out until you had brought up the graveyard thing.
Yeah.
But I was under the impression that the people that the names that were in there were from a contest, but I'm actually having a hard time confirming that right now.
I have no idea. All I can say is that they did a nice enough, like with certain lines here and there in the Kingdom Hearts series, by poking fun at how like ridiculous certain things are, because Ven had his heart separated, creating Venitus, who looks exactly like Sora, and in order for Ven to become like whole again, he needed to reside within Sora, and Venitus was his dark side. But also, since he got separated from his heart, he created a nobody named Roxas who looked exactly like Ven. And like those two ended up meeting up at one point and looking very confused because that was the first time they had seen each other ever. And they're like, we have the same face. That's weird. And then Axel comes in and says, sorry we took so long, guys. Had some reading to do and figure out some continuity errors. So it's just like, so they know that the story is very confusing. Like just towards the end, they're just like, and make sure if you're confused about anything, we've got this entire compendium here that you can just read and figure shit out. But they kind of re-explained a lot of stuff really well. You'd actually be pretty confused for like the little bit up until like when everything starts to hit the fan. If you just play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 and then just went straight to 3, they do a pretty good job of like, okay, and this is how you know this person, this is how this happens, this is what this cutscene meant. And they kind of started tying all the little strings together.
So the impression I got from watching the video game donkey review of Kingdom Hearts 3 was that part of that explanation comes as justified that Sora and his party all are suffering from amnesia. Is that correct?
They are not suffering from amnesia as much as it's just really Sora. And he's not suffering from amnesia. His memories were taken out of him like 3 different times and repieced together. So,
but I mean, whether or not he's actually suffering from a condition we could call amnesia isn't so much the question. But like, he basically has an unreliable memory, and that's why you have people constantly telling him essentially what things are from or what the context of characters are and whatnot, right?
I could see that because, yeah, like a lot of times it's like, oh, you ran into this organization member. That was a really tough fight. And Sora's like, do we know this person? And Donald and Goof are like, oh, because they weren't around for that moment.
So, okay. So I'm curious. I think you've played a bunch of the other titles, right?
I have at least gotten an hour in on each and every one of the other titles.
But not necessarily like completion on them, or...
I dare anyone to try and beat fucking 365 over 7. Fuck that game. That boring ass game. That game was so boring, they just turned it into a fucking movie in the 2.5 HD remix.
I guess why I'm asking is I would be really curious if like someone existed, and I ask the question first, if someone possibly exists that has played through all the games and is not so rabid of a fan to like neglect the downfalls of Kingdom Hearts 3, if that makes sense. So if that person exists, I'd want to, or, you know, would still be able to be somewhat unbiased about the series. Because, I mean, when it's your favorite series, like, let's be real, it's hard for anyone to criticize it. If that person did exist, would they feel insulted by the degree of, like, recap that they go through the game? And like I've realized you can't answer that. It's just a Just
I
a
can't.
thought that comes to mind.
But I would say that the story is convoluted and crazy the fuck enough that it's spread across 37,000 years. Because when did Kingdom Hearts 1 come out?
PlayStation 2 game, right?
Yeah.
It's in early 2000s.
2002. And I think that between 2002 and 2019, I would say some of the recap stuff was kind of like, I'm good. I sort of remember this, because they're not like exposition dumping on you. They're more like, oh no, yeah, you should know this person because of this reason. Moving on with our story, they don't go into like oh no, we fought here, did this thing, that, and we're kind of friends.
Okay, it's pretty light then.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, the name's Axel. Yeah, I remember you, Axel. No, you call me Lee now. Wait, what?
Okay, so
Because I'm human now.
so moving past that, just as like I guess my final question is, what would you give this game on your own personal rating or ranking?
Do I rank out of 5 or do I rank out of 10?
That's up to you.
God, what have I been ranking things at?
I prefer the 5-point system. There's way less commitment to it, and like, you know.
Well, I think there's less bias to the 5-point system as well.
Out of 5?
Because whoever says 3 out of 10, the 5 system,
A lot of people.
the 5 system gets like, I feel like, unfortunately, IGN's the perfect example of the 10 system essentially having like 4 or 5 is literally a floor unless a game is broken upon release. And so you just have like movement between 6 and 10 really, which brings it into a pseudo 4-point system, I guess.
You can kind of think about it
Opposed
from like
to-
a grade scale too, where it's like a 5 is like an A B is like a 4 is like a B, excuse me. Until you get down to like 1 or 0 being your F. So it's like you actually feel a purpose to use all the points. Whereas if you were to go on like a 100-point scale, who really cares once it goes below 50, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, I should say.
Yeah, because at that point, you've just failed anyway.
Mhm.
I'd give it like a 4. Solid 4 out of 5.
That seems higher than your initial response to the game. But so that's good. Like the story feels like it's significant, moves the plot along.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
game has
No,
somehow
maybe.
justified its wacky approach to too much story.
basically the end really like sold a lot of the stuff. So I could say that they hinted at this being the end of Sora's story, but basically kind of what happened was Kairi dies and Sora regains the power of waking, which we find out during the game the power of waking is not what it seems. Throughout the Kingdom Hearts series, you think, okay, you travel to worlds to connect people's hearts. That's wrong, apparently. You travel through people's hearts to connect worlds. So Sora goes on a trip to basically locate Kairi's heart by traversing. Basically, he traverses Kairi's heart to try and like find her. And then they end up doing like the credit roll sequence, and it's beautiful. And everyone's playing on the first island. So Destiny Island, everyone's there. And then they look up and they see Kairi and like the shadow of Sora. So Kairi's been found. She's back. She's good to go. But Sora's gone now.
Doesn't he wake up in Shibuya?
That was actually the secret ending. So yeah, then basically if you take enough pictures of Mickey Mouse silhouettes during the game, you get the secret ending. And depending on your difficulty, I looked up how to get the secret ending after I accidentally stumbled upon the secret ending because I had enough pictures that I took.
And you were on hard enough difficulty?
Yeah, I only had to get 60 since I was on normal mode.
Oh, okay. So it's not like it's gated out for people on easy or whatever the easiest difficulty
they just have
is.
they just have to take 90 on beginner mode.
I mean, that's not as bad. I at first I thought if it were gated out for like easy, I think that idea is kind of shitty.
Oh yeah,
But no, they're
it was,
fine there. That's
But yeah, it was quite literally just Sora waking up in a Shibuya.
maybe the Shibuya from 428 Shibuya Scramble.
Could be that Shibuya because it's not because the directors hinted that it was not the Shibuya of The World Ends With You.
Oh, I
Is that-
forget. There's
Oh,
a connection
yeah.
there too. Fuck.
Yeah, because in one of the games, I think it was Rechain of Memories or Recoded, Sora ends up going to The World Ends With You and hanging out with those guys and playing the Reapers game. God, that was a good game. I missed that game. I'm never going to play that game again, though.
It's out on Switch now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I hear it's really good. I'm not going to play it. Instead, I've been playing Ape Out.
Ooh. Tell me about Ape Out.
I need to remember what they call this game. It's like a... Yeah, that's what they call it. It's like an improv jazz escape room by Neil's favorite developer,
Devolver Digital.
Yeah, publisher Devolver
Yeah,
Digital.
publisher. It's actually that's kind of cool. The developers include Bennett Foddy, which you may know Bennett for his other what is it? Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, the one where you have the pickaxe.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he
It's a
also did
sledgehammer.
yeah, it's a sledgehammer. And then he also did the like that first game that you played where you're trying to like run, but you've got a Q, a W to control your thighs, and
Quap.
an O and a P to control your calves. But yeah, no, Ape Out. It's basically like a jazz rhythmic
Hotline Miami as a gorilla.
Hotline Miami-esque game. You're basically a monkey, a gorilla who is trying to escape from whatever facility that you're in, and the like perspective that it gives you is just perfect because it's like a top-down view. Everything looks like old school South Park when they were still using construction paper. So everything looks like it's construction paper because you don't understand as a gorilla what's going on and what half the things mean. You just know that you need to leave. And there's like this rhythmic jazz drummer playing in the background. And every time that you like hit a person or like knock something over or crash into something, like they'll hit a cymbal. So it's all like in rhythm. So you'll hear like a doom, 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 doom. Then you like throw a guy, and as you hit the guy, you'll hear like a tss, and then when he like splatters against the wall because you're a fucking monkey throwing a regular human being, you hear a tsh, like a nice hard cymbal crash, and the person will like splatter against the wall, and limbs will be flying all over the place because you are a monkey. So everything dies in one hit, but as a gorilla, you can take a certain amount of damage before you die, and the more damage you take, the more you're actually like bleeding. So if you get hit with like a simple rifle, it'll just do a little bit of damage, so your footprints are now bloody. But if you get hit with like a shotgun and nothing else, there's just like pools of blood going from wherever you're at, and it's a wonderfully beautiful game. It does a great thing with the roguelike element. So each time you die, the game will regenerate the level, but in like a different configuration. And then once you die, it does like this beautiful zoom out of the entire map and shows you a line of where you actually went, so you can tell how close you were to the end, basically. Haven't gotten too far, but it is a wild ride.
It kind of reminds me of God, what was it? Heat Signal. Heat Signal?
Oh, Heat Signature is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, Signature in terms of that type of movement.
Top-down reactive, except it seems like in this game, especially with this, with it being like heavily inspired by improvisational jazz, that heat signature allowed you to do quite a bit of like planning and forethought. And from what I understand, watching the gameplay of this and reading some reviews of it, it is extremely reactionary.
Yeah.
And that's probably the other area where it really deviates from, I think, the other comparison to Hotline Miami is those levels are all, they're all the same, essentially. When you start them, the layout is always the same. You're perfecting navigating through the environment. In this one, it is essentially a new encounter every time you do it with those roguelike elements.
Yeah, because at least with Hotline Miami, if you plan everything perfectly because you know the level, you can, besides the randomness of where some people are going to go, you can like take a second, breathe, you're hiding in a corner, you're sure no one's going to come this way. Mm-hmm. This game is just straight, oh god, there's an enemy around this corner.
Yeah, it's 100% full throttle.
But yeah, and the soundtrack is just wonderful. It's just drums.
Have you played anything else, Cookie?
Not yet, but I am excited to get my hands on my newest VR headset. It's going to be made out of cardboard.
And using your phone?
No. Guess again.
I didn't think you were talking about the Oculus Quest, right?
Nope, this one's coming out a little bit sooner than the Oculus Quest, and it's going to be a lot bit cheaper.
Just go ahead and tell us.
Yeah.
Okay, it's Nintendo's,
we're not taking the bait.
Nintendo Labo's newest thing is Nintendo VR.
Ah. Interesting.
I forget how much it's going to cost, but it seems like it's going to be less than $100.
What makes it interesting too is that we definitely talked about this when we talked about the prospect of it being possible when the Switch was coming out, and now it's finally a thing with Labo. And from the looks of it, it doesn't look like it's anything that you can actually wear. It's more like you're holding it up to your face.
Yeah.
Which means it'd be used for very specific scenarios. But looking at the Nintendo Labo VR kit, they sure as heck show out some different possibilities.
So there's a thing that looks like a bird watching. There's a thing that you're either holding a gun to a VR face mask or you're an elephant. I'm not sure which one. Oh, okay. There is one that does look like you're shooting a gun with a rocket. The one that I'm excited about is the camera. Because Hey You Pikachu's gotta fucking come back. It's gotta fucking come back, and that'd be like perfect.
Ooh.
I wonder.
Or not Hey You Pikachu. You're thinking Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
Pokemon Snap. Yep, that's the one.
I mean, you could play Pokemon Snap, and every time you see a Pikachu, you can yell, "Hey, you!" and then try and take a picture. Well, congrats on the upcoming hardware acquisition. Are you also going to add this new Google controller that's been leaked to your repertoire of gaming equipment? Have you guys heard about this?
No.
No? Okay. Here, let me submit a picture into the chat of the new Google controller.
I Googled it.
Oh. Yeah.
Google.
Obviously, they're not too upset about this being leaked if they're not completely censoring searches for it.
I was going to say, I like the color scheme, and I like the fact that it looks like an Ouya controller had a threesome with a PlayStation controller and an Xbox controller.
Yeah, and the abomination that they created is this multicolor, like, sleek board. This does not look ergonomic
at all. It's like got the ergonomics of the ergonomics of a Ouya controller with the button placement of a PlayStation controller and just the color scheme of a Xbox controller.
Okay, so tell me, what is this going to be used for, Scott?
So what I found as the most likely, at least, what would you say? The most likely rumored option is that at the Game Developers Conference, Google may talk about creating a gaming streaming service.
So the one that I got to test out over the warm times.
Over the warm times, back
the thing
back before the
what was
cold
that?
hit.
Yeah, what was that thing called that I did that worked really well? Where I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but on any browser that had Google Chrome.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but
Project Stream.
Project Stream.
Yeah, Project Stream last year.
They could absolutely associate this with Project Stream and then try and undercut the console market by having you just hook up a Google controller to whatever computer you have and taking your games straight off of a browser.
I will say in this patent, the image of the back of the controller, that
Those
whatever they
triggers look
use
real.
as a charge port
Yeah.
/ battery pack.
It looks
Definitely.
like USB-C for the input.
It does not look USB-C to me. It looks like it's flat on the top and curved on the bottom.
It could also be, what is this? Micro USB? It could also be
It looks
micro
a
USB
little
hookup.
micro USB. But that's also just a very terrible sketch.
Yeah, I was going to say it's hard to tell with a sketch, which makes it tricky. The one thing I can't say is those triggers look trash. I don't like any sort of trigger design that doesn't have some sort of like curve to it, like an actual like gun trigger, I guess. Yeah, like an actual trigger. Those are more paddles than triggers.
I bet they go down all the way too.
Yeah, can't lock them halfway.
Well, Scott, did you play any games this week?
Oh yeah, guess we're talking about video games we played.
I've played more Hollow Knight. I haven't done anything impressive in Hollow Knight or really all that notable, in all honesty. I've just noticed I've gotten a lot better at the game since I played it last time. And hooray for games that have a like Collosseum challenge mode. I don't know why that edition is so appreciated, or at least why I appreciate that so much. But man, there's nothing better than just getting to do a gauntlet against enemies sometimes in games that have like good combat systems. I can think of Hollow Knight having a good one. The remake of Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which was A Link to Another World, had a sort of gauntlet tower that replaced the Tower of Hera in the original game. There was quite a bit of fun. Just throw me into an arena with a bunch of enemies that I've had to fight in different situations and make me like try and survive the scrum, and you've got a happy gamer on your hands.
Nice.
Yeah. Otherwise, I played even more URF. I played some with Neil, and I played some with some other friends. And I fared really well with Neil. We had some really wonderful games. And with my other friends, I ate shit for like 4 or 5 matches until I couldn't play anymore.
I think it's usually the other way around too. So that's an interesting take.
I don't know. It depends on the group of friends I'm playing with. There are some friends who drag me to victory every time I play with them, and there are other friends that I drag them to the depths of despair every time we play. So, it's all about who you play with.
Yeah, they extended URF another patch, so that's like effectively at the time of the announcement 2 weeks or so. So that's probably the reason why we've been playing more of it.
Oh yeah,
or at least
it's awesome.
personally.
I love the game mode, I really do. And I'm still very confident that it's going to be a much more regular staple than we encountered in previous seasons.
Just I wish you could. It's like I wish you could play it, but also spend way less time doing it for the same level of satisfaction. Because it is like a big time suck for me.
It can be.
Yeah, I mean, like 3 matches is going to be 2 hours.
Yeah.
And 4 matches,
Ew.
5 matches, 3 hours or so.
Oh wait, you said three matches is how many hours?
Three
2
matches will be
hours.
about 2 hours when you factor in like load in, load out, cool down,
So I think
restroom
like
breaks.
36, 37 minutes a piece.
Yeah.
I can't. I can,
no, that's
but I
not
can't
right.
do that.
What is that? Is that 45 minutes a piece? 45
Yeah.
45?
We average anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes for a match, but the bigger
think
thing, though,
40
is that you have
yeah.
to factor in a couple minutes before you even get to enter in the game. You have
That's
roughly
true.
a minute for queue times. You'll also have a period of time before you start queuing when people need to use the restroom and stuff like that. And it's not saying that's bad or anything in that regard.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like I'm being shamed for pee breaks. Look.
fucking hold your bladder like anyone else out there. Hey, I don't know if anyone's keeping up with JoJo Part 5, but they're getting to
Yes.
some real good parts. We unfortunately don't have much time to talk about it at this point since we're hitting an hour. And so I'll also save my game talk for next week as well. If you have comments, questions, or corrections, you can email them to podcast@fancyramen.com.
Don't be afraid to leave those reviews and likes on Apple Podcasts so that way we can shame you into listening to more. Or I could just give you a shout out and say, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Tell your group of Italian gangster friends about our podcast. While they're struggling to take down the head of a giant crime organization, maybe they'll find some comfort in listening to the dulcet tones of our voices talk about video games for approximately an hour each week.
So real quickly, Cookie, are you streaming anything this week?
I am not, but starting next week, I think I am going to, I think I'm going to pick up the Division 2 and start streaming the shit out of that.
And you'll be able to do that where? Or watch you
At-
where?
You'll be able to watch me at twitch.tv/something. I think it's just Cookie Skimilk. Or usually if I'm streaming and Neil's not streaming, or J Payday.
J Frey all day.
J Frey all day is not streaming. The Fancy Ramen podcast is the Fancy Ramen Twitch channel will also be a good place to watch me because you ought to host me. You ought to host the shit out of me, and I thank you for that.
I have to learn how to host people then. Yeah, so, and then you can find...
No, you already do it.
Do I?
Yeah, you got it set up to auto host whenever
Okay.
you're not playing.
And I feel bad because I don't do the same for John.
If you ever want to play, just write us a message and say, hey, I want to play this game with you. And we'd be more than happy to accept you into the fold of our friends lists, play some shit with you.
So that concludes episode 110 of Fancy Ramen, March 10th, 2019. I'm Neil.
I'm Cookie.
And I'm Scott.
Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.